Okay, so there's a fair amount to unpack in Evoto, but I'm not deep diving every single thing. What I'm doing in this video is just showing you guys my process, okay? So the first thing that I'm looking at is just to get rid of inconsistencies on the skin. Now, if you were in a Photoshop or if you kept it in Lightroom, you'd have to go, piece by piece, bit by bit, and use your stamps and clone it out, or your brushes. We're not going to have to do that anymore in Evoto because they've got sliders. They're AI sliders, and we can actually just remove the whole bit with one foul swoop of our slider. So that actually did quite a bit. Now, what's important in this area, it's called freckles and acne. Here, let's take it off again. Okay, we're in this little tab called portrait retouching. Okay, so this is where you're gonna get all these AI face or skin retouching tools. It's a fabulous little section, and I can't say how much I love this. Freckles and acne. So if we slide it all the way up, you can see that it took basically everything off. Now, what I tend to do is I go to this freckles one because I don't actually want to remove any freckles because that's real, that's natural. So I actually bring that one back to 0 now that that effect is applied, and I just keep the acne slider all the way up. Okay, now depending on the image and the person and what you're trying to go for, how slick of a look you're trying to go for, you could keep this all the way up, but you could back it down a little bit too. Because if you back it down, it will look a little bit more realistic. It could get too fake and phony if you go all the way up. So I'm gonna back it down about here. So 77 is where I'm gonna go, and that's not bad to me, okay? This little guy here, where my mouse is view before only, if I click that, you can see the before and after. Okay, pretty interesting. And I'm happy with that. So that saves a ton of time. If you ever had to do this stuff in Photoshop in the past, that could take, you could spend 20 minutes on a photo trying to remove this stuff. As you get faster, obviously, or as you get better, you could do it faster. Like I can do it in just a couple minutes. So now that we've done that, what I like to do is I like to add this reduce face shine slider. So watch the hot spots on her skin here. This is going to take the edge off. Yeah, and let's back it out a bit too, so you can see. I do like that. So you go like this. See, we got those big hot spots from the flash. Sometimes depending on the makeup, that could be more intense or not. I'm gonna keep it on. I like it at 100 in this scenario. It just takes the edge off of that. And also what's nice is in the past, I would have had to do that in Photoshop and brush that out. So just having that nice slider to do it is a pretty serious game changer. Okay, now another good one here. Well, you can see there's this face mole removal. Again, that's real and that's part of someone's look. So I wouldn't recommend doing that unless maybe they tell you they want you to. That's a conversation you may have to have with your client. But just so you can see, if you apply it, watch the nose there. There's one on the chin and one on the nose. So there it is. And if you hit that remover, the face mole remover, bam, it just takes it away. But this is part of her look, so let's leave it in. And it looks awesome, One thing I would explore here, dark circles. So watch this. If we crank this all the way to the right, all the under eye stuff goes away. So this is going to also be subjective. You got to be careful. It doesn't look phony because people have stuff under their eyes. Everybody does. So you just have to decide how much to leave, okay? But a little bit to take the edge off is not bad. If I was doing my own headshot or a portrait of myself, I just take the edge off a little bit, okay? That looks good to me. Let's leave it there. Eye bags, if you watch the under eyes again, let's do this eye bag one. Okay, even more. But again, be careful. We want it to stay real. You don't want it to look fake or phony. I mean, it's clean, but it's not totally real. So we gotta find a happy medium. I'm gonna go about 37. Let's stick with that for a second. Let's look at our before. Okay, that has come a long way, and I'm very happy with this. Let's zoom out so we can see. Let's do a before. Yeah, you can still see a mega difference. And it's so easy with these sliders. Okay, so if we zoom back in, let's keep going. There's a ton of options. Not all of them are going to apply to this photo, but I'll just keep scrolling here. If there are forehead wrinkles, this one works really well. 11 lines works super well. Eye wrinkles, nasal, like there's a ton of stuff here. It's extremely good. I don't need any of these though. Tattoos, if you had a professional headshot for a client and they had tattoos on their arms, for example, this tattoo removal is magic. Just one click, tattoos on the arm is gone. It's crazy good. Okay, let's keep going. One thing I do use, this facial skin area. So even dodge and burn, I don't always do that one, but I do like the sculpt dodge and burn because that just kind of adds intensity to the shadows on the face and then the highlights, and it just gives it a good contrasty sculpt. So let's move this all the way to the right, and you can see what that looks like. I'll zoom in just a little bit. So sculpt, dodge, and burn. Yeah. And that gives it more of a fashion-y, sort of portrait-y, slicker look. And you can decide how much of that you want, if you want to back it down a little bit. So here's none. Okay, and then here's full blast, which I don't even mind. I don't even mind full blast. I might keep it there, or maybe... Okay, how about... Okay, 61. Let's go with something like that. And again, here's before. Here's after. It's coming along so nice. Look how slick that is. Okay, now let's just keep going. I don't need any of this stuff. Textured smoothing, no, because I'm just really happy with where we're at now. We don't need to soften the skin anymore. It's looking great. One thing I do is skin tone AI unify face complexion. This one will do a better job of unifying these different colors. So if we go all the way to the right, check this out. So it just makes the skin more uniform. So there's no like, if you had, let's say for example, someone came in from the cold, it's winter time and there was, a lot of red on their cheeks and stuff, this would actually get rid of that and unify it to the rest of the skin color. So let's see, what do I think? Do I like that? Here's none. Watch the bottom of her face, these shadowy areas. If I put it back on, yeah, I do like that. Maybe we'll just back it off a bit. Maybe about there. 78. Okay, I'm going to keep that. I like it. You could do the same thing now with the skin. So AI Unify Body Complexion. That's not bad. Let's back that off a bit. Yep, that looks good to me. So here's before. After. Yeah, okay, I'm really happy with all this stuff. This is awesome. Let's leave it at that for the Unify skin. This face one, now she's like, McLeod is a fantastic model and she's gorgeous. We don't need to do anything to her face, but just so you could see, you can actually do some reshaping, widening. There's a lot we can do here. So be very careful because you don't want to change a person too much. But if you had to do something to take the edge off, or maybe one side of a person's face isn't so symmetrical, or, there's many reasons why I guess you could do this stuff. There's a lot of interesting options here to play with. So you're going to want to spend some time in this section. In this case, because I think McLeod is killing it, we don't have to touch any of this stuff. Now here, okay, this stuff we can play in. So facial expression, just so you can see, we don't need to do this, but this gummy smile is actually pretty funny. You can enhance the smile. Watch that upper lip. Okay, we'll take it away. Gentle smile, it adds more smile. That's actually interesting. Look, if we take that off, if you wanted to add a little bit of a smile, that's fascinating. I might actually leave that on. So here's before, after. It's just like a smidge of an extra smile. I like it. I'm gonna leave that on. I think that's fascinating that we can do that. Okay. We're getting pretty close here. Eyes. If you want to add some brightness to the eyes, I do. So I'm gonna add just a little bit. if we zoom in a little bit, watch the catch lights in her eyeballs here. You're gonna notice that gets a little bit of extra pop when we add that, and the whites in the eyes too. You gotta be careful. If you go full blast, it's gonna look a little fake. So just a little bit for some pop. Okay. The eye whites, iris, eye reflection, lots of stuff you can play with here. Okay. If she was wearing glasses, this remove glasses glare one is crazy good. No glasses, obviously, so I can't show you that for now. But if you do have glare in someone's eyeglasses, that one is magical. Okay. This one's interesting. We can add catch lights to her eyes. If you go through these guys, watch her eyeballs here. Here, I'll zoom in a little bit. If you wanted to add more pop and make it look like there were more lights in the studio, look, you can add. This one looks like there's a reflector at the bottom. That's interesting, actually. Let's see. Here's before. Here's after. Okay, so let's see. If I keep that one with the bottom reflector, if we're zoomed out, no, you know what? In my opinion, it adds too much. Let's take it away. I'm gonna go with none. But it's very interesting. You can play with that stuff. Super duper interesting. Let's move on. We're actually getting close to being complete here. Like, I'm pretty darn happy with this image. We've come such a long way. There are makeup options you can play with, highlights, contour. I don't think we need any of this. Her makeup was awesome to begin with anyways. But if you wanted to, this section exists and it's really cool. Hair reshape. This I'll show you, but we probably don't need to do much. Hair part line. Okay, so you can watch the hairline here. It just filled it in a little bit. That's not bad. I could live with that. Let's leave that in. Top hair volume. So let's back out here. Top hair volume. Interesting. Here's before. Here's with a little volume. You know what? A little volume is not bad. Let's leave that. Here's before. Here's after. Let's keep a little bit in. Not bad. There's side hair volume. If you watch the sides of her hair, if you wanted to add volume like that. You know, that's not bad either. I might actually leave that in. Just for extra. Yeah. Just extra pop. Okay, hairline. Nope, I don't want to touch that. Okay, but that's an interesting one. If you ever had to fix someone's hairline, that could work very well for you. Okay, stray hair removals. Let's see if these little guys, if this takes them out. Let's back it off and see. This is more for like when there's frizzies all around the top of the person's head. In this case, it's probably not necessary. Yeah, well, it's doing it to the hood here. Let's see. Okay. No, that starts to look a little fake to me. So that's an interesting one. If you ever have a lot of stray hairs without a hood like that, in this case, I don't need it. Okay, let's move on. So now that I'm happy with the skin retouching, here, let's just do another before and after. So here's before, after. What a crazy good job. I'm just so impressed with this program. I love it. I do all my skin retouching in here. I almost don't touch Photoshop anymore. Just it's so quick, it's so effective, and the fact that I could copy and paste this stuff to other images too, it's so good. I just can't say that enough times. Okay. Now I'm pretty happy with this. There isn't a lot more that I'm gonna do. Like, we're getting really close to a completed image here. One thing I'll show you though is if you ever wanted to change your backdrops. Now, I don't actually want to do this because I quite like my backdrop here. I have a nice canvas that I was using. But if you ever wanted to change it, they have this one touch backdrop changer in this backdrop section over here. Okay. If I click, for example, gray, okay, it can completely change the backdrop. Now, again, I don't want to do that, but you can see how well it works. It does the cutout and it puts the new backdrop in. Here's this fabricy one that they have. Now, I like mine better because it's real. But if you ever did need to change your backdrops, this does a crazy good job. Okay, just one click. Look at all the options they have. Also, up in this personal area, you could actually import your own backdrops too if you had stuff saved from Google, or maybe you shot your own backdrops in the studio to use later. So that's a really cool option. And again, it's one click and it puts it in. Another cool one is transparent. So if you needed to remove someone from a backdrop, let's say they had an ad, maybe they needed to put it into another program and change the background. So this gives them that quick, clean cutout, and you could send them just themselves cut out. Okay, if you're sending this to a client or whatever. So that's a good one. I'm gonna undo that. I actually, like I said, love my backdrop. At this point, I'm pretty happy with the image. I think we're so close. I think it's cropping time now. So let's go to the crop. The first thing I want to do is, instead of having to worry about brushing this out or something like, or clone stamping it out, we have enough headroom here because I shot it pretty wide. Let's just drag it in this way, and then that takes care of that issue. Okay. Now, one thing I'll mention is this is going to live on social media. That's the first intention with this picture. So I tend to make my cropping decisions more when I post. Okay. If this picture was going to live on a website or it was going to go for print or something different, then I would start to think more like, okay, do I like this hand the way it's cut off, or do I want to bring this up a little bit so that I don't have a cut off hand? And here's what that looks like. Okay. So you can decide, you can make those types of decisions, but something that I'll mention is that I want to keep it as wide as possible because I really do want to make this cropping decision on social media. I think I'm ready to export. Now, there's one thing I'm going to mention before I hit export. When I finish an image, I like to give a client a black and white and a color image. I love, love, love black and white portraits. It's one of my favorite things. So I'll always export the color version first, and then I'll go back and we'll make a black and white. So that's what we're going to do. So export, okay. Because it's going to social media, I'm going to hit this web size one because I don't need it to be a huge, massive size. If I wanted it to be a giant size for print, I would choose one of my TIFF options, or even JPEG full size does a good job, but those files are huge. In this case, it's social media, so I'm going to hit web, okay? Save it out. You can choose where to save it out to if you had a hard drive plugged in. I'm just going to send it to my desktop. There's not a lot on my desktop right now anyways. You could change the name if you needed to, but let's just hit export. And here's the image. Let's do full screen and see what we got. Yeah, okay. That's awesome. Such a great shot. I mean, McLeod killed it in this photo shoot. The lighting was really cool. I was really happy with how I lit this. It's just overall this black outfit she's got and that cool gray canvas. It's a badass shot. I like the lighting. But now with the skin retouching that we did in Evoto, like that's slick. This makes me really, really happy. Okay. So now that we have that, the last thing that I will do is I'll always make a black and white. Okay, so we go back. This is so simple. I just go back up to this color adjustments panel. Keep in mind when you're in Evoto, this is set up in layers. So when we go back up to something like color adjustments, we're just not seeing the face portrait retouching just because it's on a layer underneath. But as soon as I go back there, then you see the retouching. Okay, so if I go up here, don't freak out. You're not going to see the retouching, but I'm going to go to saturation, and I'm going to bring the saturation down. And that's all I need to do for making a black and white. Okay, so if I come back down here to retouching to add that back in, yes, cool. Okay, here's before. So here's color, after. That's a cool black and white. Now, one thing I'll mention is when I do go to black and white, I do tend to like adding a little bit more pop. So I do add a little bit more contrast. Just a little bit. Even 10 or 12 is fine. Let's go with 11, right in the middle. And then maybe a little clarity, because on black and white images, a little clarity just for pop. Not very much. 1, 2, or 3. Let's go 3. That's nice. Okay. Love, love, love. Okay, export, and then let's see what it looks like. And then we'll A/B the color and the black and white. There we go. Oh yeah, black and white. It has to be black and white. I love that so much. Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, if I was gonna post it, I don't know. I'll send this to her. We'll see what she thinks as well. Everyone, it's subjective. Everyone likes different things. I love the black and white though. It's so cool, and it's got so much pop now with a little bit of contrast and a little bit of that clarity. Here, we'll full screen it. Love that. Okay, and look at how nice the skin is. Evoto did such a good job. It was incredibly easy. It's still not like it's not total. It's not fake. It's yeah, it's retouched, but it's still real. It's very very slick. I'm so happy with this shot. Okay, now one thing we'll go back. If this little mark on the arm was bugging me in Evoto, you can still do your basic healing brush retouching. So what I would do is I would grab this little healing tool, and it's pretty simple. I use let's bring the size down just a little bit, and we're just gonna paint over it, and that'll get rid of it. Very very simple, and it's gone. And if you see any other little things you want to get rid of, just click on it while we're in here. Okay. Maybe while we're in, let's take care of this guy here. And it's gone. Okay. So if that was bugging me, now it's gone. Well, let's take these guys out too. No, 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 no. Let's leave that. That never popped out to my eyes in the first place. I'm gonna leave it at that, and let's hit OK, and we'll re-export that. Okay. And there it is. Beautiful.